Hey everybody, welcome to the Rochester Real Estate Show. Jason Mancuso and Anthony Butera here to give you the Happy Holidays 2024 recap, 2025 preview episode.
Yeah,
We'll call it
wrap up,
something like that.
and what 2025 is going to look like.
I feel like this is going to be short in the sense that the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, and given your track record, you hate living in the past, so
Fair. Very fair. Good to have you back. 2024.
Yep.
A lot happened ultimately, market condition wise. Well, this is interesting. I mean, market condition wise in Rochester,
Yeah,
kind of a similar story to, if you were to watch the same episode of years past, at least
Yeah.
the last few years, right? Nationally, different story.
100%.
Nationally, 2024 really shifted or balanced in most markets.
Yeah. Balanced and declined median sales price
Yeah.
as high as 20% in 2024, right?
Some of the big, like Austin's of the world, or the country, and those types of markets did see some corrections and adjustments.
Yeah, and I feel like 2024 was the first year because the rates came up 2022,
Yep.
fall of 22, if I
Uh,
remember correctly.
Spring.
Spring-ish.
It was.
Okay.
So I know this because I was looking at, like, we have our year end meeting. I was
Yeah.
looking at prep work
Yeah.
in year end 2021, right,
Yeah.
and all the predictions. Couldn't be more wrong.
Oh, of course.
So if you remember, Ukraine, Russia stuff happening in the spring, and that, really combined with inflation, shot rates up from there.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
Yeah.
22 and 2 is when things all kind of came off the craziness, coming off COVID and whatnot, and super low rates and whatnot.
Yep. 2022, spring, fall, 2022 heading into 23. 23 was kind of the shock and awe of what the real estate or what the interest rates were.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of disbelief in 2023. There was a lot of the sentiment was, well, things are going to come back down in 2024. And now, tail end of 2024, buyers and sellers, they've come to terms with what the rates are. And they've come to terms, and we'll talk more about it around what's going to happen in 2025, around where they are right now.
I think that's a really good, synopsis of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Is 2022 again, rates jumped, 23, and this year 24. Okay, fully digested. Like, the market never works to where it just stops.
Yep.
So to give context, nationally, on average, about 5 million homes sold every year.
Yeah.
In 2020, 2021, because of how low the rates were, jumped to 6. So really high at that level. 23 this year, 24, 22, 23, 24, down to in the 4s.
Yep.
Low 4s.
Yep.
There may have been a year like 3.9.
Upper 3, yeah. I think
right?
2022 may have been.
So really low on that spectrum.
Yeah.
And we're still there in terms of that few homes. So we're under 1 million real estate transactions in the last few years compared to what is quote unquote average.
Yeah, and I think 2025 we're going to see the people from 22 that were on the fence about selling and said, well, there's no way now we can't sell because our interest rates in the 3s. No way, we're going to wait. 2023 happened. It's like, okay, well, what are we waiting for? 2024 is like, all right, maybe we have to make a move because these aren't going anywhere. And I think 2025, I do think that what we're going to see for the first time in a very long time is the median sales price hovering around where we're at right now, because tail end was I think it went up just under 8%. 2024 compared to 2023
in Monroe County here in Rochester. We're sitting around 250. Median sales price.
Which is, I mean, listen, it's still nationwide. It's extremely low. But dude, when you go back 8 years, as a team, 10 years, and like we can go back and say, okay, well, what was our median sales price? We were under $100,000 for a while, right? And the average,
Around there,
the
yeah.
median sales price 8 years ago was $145,000. Like it increased by $100,000. And yeah, the market's been challenging, but we've been blessed as agents where the median sales price
Yeah.
has increased. And inevitably, in most situations, the average commission has increased as transactions were on the decline. So for consumers out there listening, it probably doesn't mean much to you, but we've been blessed in that, and yet that's going to come to an end. We're going to see, the agents that have been doing the same amount of units, their income has gone up. We're not going to see that anymore. If you're doing the same amount of units next year, you're going to see your income flatline. And then when you factor in the cost to be alive today, right? That's where we're going to start feeling a funk a little bit here for the first time in a long time, where the rest of the country's been living in that funk for the last 24 months.
All fair.
Yep.
So to recap back to interest rates. And
Yeah.
I think that was a very good point in terms of like the last, so now 3 years from when the rates jumped in 22,
Yep.
this like digestive period. And just the consumers, again, markets don't just stop. It's the adjustments that you need to make. People still need to move.
Yeah.
People have to relocate for a job, right? Death, divorce, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's always going to be constant. So now it's like, to your point, like now there's now in the fourth year.
Yeah.
We've had 2 full years of knowing like rates are not going to be 3%.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're going in the 3rd year and 4th year of this, different rate climate from when it was just like crazy.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind the context of like below historical levels, for the 10 years prior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or not 10, but like 14, 15 up until 22, 2014, like, low rates. Like I bought my house, personal info, but I bought my house in 2015. We're at 3.8. It's really unheard of in the sense of like history.
Yeah.
Right. So like now we're okay, double that in some spots. And the last 2 years, that is. And now like the market's kind of going to get even more used to it and more acceptance of it. Right.
Yeah. I think now for consumers, it would be great. And I'm agnostic to what happens, but I think for real estate agents, the worst thing that could happen for us is for the rates to go back to the 3s. We'll have a year of not being able to fail, fish in a barrel, easy transactions. First-time home buyers will come out of the woodwork. They'll overpay because they're underpaying from an interest rate perspective. It'll be really good. It'll be 2021 all over again.
Sure.
Right? 2021, we couldn't fail.
Yeah, we can't lie to ourselves and say that rates don't have an effect on demand.
No doubt.
Right.
But, we've been living in the consequences of those interest rates for the past 2 years now.
So I guess what we just talked through is a matter of that, like, okay, now it's here.
Yeah.
And the predictions, I'm not going to say the data shows it, because the predictions of the next 2 years from the quote unquote powers that be, the experts in the industry, the ones that really, have an impact on this stuff. 4th quarter in 2026.
Yeah.
We're still in the 6s is the predictions. Now low 6.1 type of thing. We got to that level in this year and then jumped back up.
Yeah. And by the way, 2005, interest rates were in the 6s, and every loan officer on the planet was getting rich off of refi.
Sure.
Because everybody was coming off 8% or upper 7%. So
great point.
Perspective at that time was, I can refinance my mortgage and get into the 6s. Mm-hmm. That's free money, right?
Well, and again, we're just now in this like, it's been digested. People have muscles around it. Like it's just accepted that like, for the most part, like, we're not going to be looking at 3% interest. Yeah. And therefore, what should our plans be?
Yep.
we can't wait for the interest rates being that low to bail us out, so to speak, and be able to make a move. So
Yeah.
what is the plan going to be if we want or need to make a move?
And in all fairness, if you've owned a home for the past 5 years, you've lived in a home with an interest rate likely in the threes or lower fours.
Yep.
And while you were living in that home, your value has gone up at least 50%, I think is fair to say. And at the same time, you were paying a good amount of principal on that home. So your value, right? Your value has increased. You're knocking more off because your interest rate's low. So you're putting more towards your principal than if it were today. So, I mean, to me, in all fairness, you've lived in that world where it's been very advantageous for you. You didn't do anything about it. You took advantage of the market conditions. They took advantage of it for you. And now, if that dream home is on your horizons or something pops up and it makes perfect sense for you and your family, don't allow the circumstances you had no control over to control your destiny moving forward.
Love it. Needs to be on a bumper sticker. That was deep. I think what gets overlooked in a lot of what you just said, right, is that point of the equity that people have.
Yeah.
I mean, we're record-breaking levels of equity in the country, just everywhere, right? So the my thing is like the word of the year is going to be affordability or demand, on that side of the equation, and rightfully so. Like cost of living, interest rates, like we discussed. Just the whole equation there. Like, I'm not saying it's not a problem or not an issue, right? But I think we just focus all in on that and then like, wow, not going to be a good time to do anything, right? And forget about, I forgot about all that equity that I have built.
Yep.
So again, like if you need to do something or want to do something, like how to think about it, how to plan around it.
Yeah.
Now that like, again, because end of 2026, the predictions are we're still looking at rates in the sixes. So it's not this 4% land. Like if it ever comes again, it's not happening in the next couple of years. So therefore, what are your plans or what are your wants?
I had a thought yesterday, it came to mind. It was, the rule of thumb was first off, 2021, over 40% of buyers were first-time home buyers, right? So my fear, given the market conditions now, is there's such scarcity in inventory. It's never been harder for a first-time home buyer. The average age of first-time home buyers now are 35 years old, I think I read. That's crazy.
I think it's even older. I think it's 38, but yeah.
It's crazy. So the
average home buyer is like 53.
Yeah. So my fear is, the good thing about first-time home buyers is inevitably they're never in the home for more than 5 to 7 years. That first, let's face it, your needs when you were in your 20s, buying that first home change, right? You a lot of times you start a family, kids are in the picture, school district means something. Maybe you want to get out of the city, you want to get to the suburbs. So what that did was that supplied inventory because there was turnover. And now there's less of that turnover, which is going to make it even harder for first-time home buyers
that cycle has been interrupted. And that's ultimately part of the reason why it's 5 million homes sold nationally down to 4. Great point.
They're sticking around longer.
They either don't have a plan or don't have a choice. Right? Because again, I'm not going to sit here and say that their affordability isn't a problem.
It's 100% of the problem. Right? I think that going in 2021, people were overspending for homes they didn't necessarily need. And I think the mindset now is like, hey, do we really need all of this? Right. And I can speak from myself. I have a home. I use 600 square feet of it. Right. I'm paying taxes on a lot more square footage than that. So I think it just, and compounded with the cost to be alive right now, like we talked about, like, I think that people are analyzing what we actually need, what we can live without, because that bag of groceries has gone up 300% in the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
What's important?
Yep, absolutely. As they should. I guess my thing is like, I, I encourage and I hope and we really want to help people from the overall like
Yeah.
life plan of things, right?
Yep.
And what you said about the dynamic in 21 was like careless decisions in spots of just like, yeah, the rate's this low. And I do think there was an element of like, I don't want to get stuck in my house again and be in
Yeah.
something I don't enjoy. And screw it, let's buy it. Right.
Yeah.
Not all the time carelessly, I'm saying, but I think
Yeah.
plenty of those choices or, the process was had that way plenty of times.
Well, COVID played into that.
I get it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean,
Now on the flip, here it's like, okay, the opposite of like, okay, the cost side of it is now higher and feels unbearable and careless to the point where like, wow, there must not be a way then.
yeah.
And again, I'm not guaranteeing that there's a fit for every situation, but the message would be like make sure you're getting with professionals that can help you plan on all sides of it, not just real estate agents, but the mortgage side, the financial planning side, the accounting side, etc. So, all right, what else happened in 2024? I mean, we talked about, nationally, like really shifted more so than locally here in Rochester. You mentioned it. We got some data in front of us that the median sales price jumped 8% in our market. Closed sales about the same right now. We're looking at just about a 1%, 2% decrease. Inventory stayed the same, about less than 1% increase. Just creating essentially similar market conditions that we've seen, just I guess a lot less extreme, which was probably the same message that we delivered, or was the same message we delivered this time last year in 23. So we're still in a seller's market. There's still, elements of competition and bidding wars. It's just a lot less extreme than what it was.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Realtors were supposed to be done. I mean, let's not forget about that, right?
That also happened last year.
The settlement, the NAR settlement in August, right, where we had to change the way we conducted ourselves from a disclosure standpoint, and we're no longer able to advertise commissions in the multiple listing service. Like, and I got to tell you, experts, I'll say that name loosely, the experts in our industry were saying that's a wrap.
Yeah.
It's a wrap. You are not going to be compensated in the same fashion. Buyers agents are not going to be compensated at all. Consumers are going to go directly to the listing agents. Experts, and I'll be honest with you, some of the people making these bold statements are people that I subscribe to and I go to for industry knowledge. And guess what's happened? The median commission, the average commission has not gone down one bit. If I would have told you back,
stories of it going up.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But if we were sitting here in August and I said, look we're going to talk in December, and I would bet average commissions don't go down, you would have been like, let's calm down.
Yeah, I would have said like it'll drop a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I date you. So the reason why is this is all, don't get me wrong. Change is always change. And, whether good or bad, it's just change. You got to deal with it. Right. Not saying like in hindsight's always 2020. So I'll say that. Right. But like not saying we didn't have any stress or fears or worry around when everything is happening, but we were confident on our end as professionals in this industry because we knew that like, okay, we already provide great value and this is just going to emphasize that even more. And consumers are going to want to work with professionals that are providing value, that are earning what they charge.
And I will say this, for the most part, unless the industry forces a salesperson to up their game in any industry, they won't.
Sure.
It's forced us to up our game.
Great point.
It's forced us to up our game. It's forced us to be able to articulate our value proposition to consumers and provide clarity around what it is exactly that we do. And one thing became abundantly clear is that consumers want to compensate the best in the business to do what they do. And we started to have a lot more conversations around there's noise over here. if we can focus on the net results and what we're going to achieve together, let's invest our time and efforts into that. No matter what's going on over here. At the end of the day, they want to hire the best people. They want to be in the best hands. And there's a cost to acquire the best professionals in any industry.
Sure, absolutely. And zoom out even further with the industry that we're in of dealing with most people's most important transaction in terms of the roof over their head and where they're raising their family or where they sleep at night, right? And for most people, the biggest financial transaction that they have.
Yeah.
I've always, I mean, let's call it what it is, betting our careers on that being something that people aren't going to want to nickel and dime.
Yeah.
Or that they're going to want to use a professional. And yeah, we feel confidently we are those professionals that provide that value, that earn that.
We are. We're amongst the best in the business. And like you said, it's the most important asset that they have, most likely, right? Is their personal home for the most part. And I mean, they subscribe to and they had faith in the process. I mean, what are your alternatives, right? I've seen people that have showed up to my house when I saw something on Facebook Marketplace. That's the alternative, right? Like, yeah.
Well, it's just not even, a car purchase that can be, I mean, everything can be purchased online these days, including a home in theory, right?
Yeah.
Cars being something that's, I mean, just think of like, you don't go shopping in person. You don't need to anyway.
Yep.
You probably do, but, you can get everything delivered to your doorstep, including a car right now.
Yeah.
It's different when it's your home.
Yeah.
And for professionals out there, real estate professionals like that, we'll continue to win that bet. I'm confident.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure that you're earning it
and
providing value.
I always use the auto industry too. Like for me, I always felt like people would always say, well, how much longer are people really going to need real estate agents? And for me, all I see is car dealerships going up left and right. And it was like, wait a second. As long as they're going in person to speak to a car salesperson, which who loves that experience?
Right.
Not many people, there will be a need for us because the sale or purchase of the home that they're going to live in, I would think is more important than their vehicle.
Agreed. 2025 preview.
Yeah.
Like I said, keeping it short.
Yeah.
Tough to make predictions. The predictions are that the rates are not going to drastically be reduced.
No.
There's really no, cure, in terms of like a true cure to affordability problems out there. So that's going to be the topic.
Yep.
For us locally in Rochester, there's really not a cure to increased inventory to balance the market. So yeah, I do agree with you. I mean, I hope we head there in terms of, not having, anything beyond like this 8% increase that we saw last year and hope that it can get back to more nominal, marginal, type growth.
Yeah.
And certainly I also, again, that equity concept of being record high, we're not looking at bubble bursting.
Yeah.
You can't. If you need to sell, you'll be able to sell and still profit.
No,
in most cases.
I think in 2025, if we were to fast forward a year and we talked about what the year was like, what it felt like, what the market conditions were, I think it's going to be very steady from a market condition standpoint. Now, when I think about what are some of the catalysts that could adjust things up a little bit or down a little bit, if somehow inflation is controlled, that would induce consumer confidence that maybe would give people that confidence to go out and start shopping for a home. Right now, there's so much fear because the cost to live the same way over the past few years has gone up substantially.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think steady is a good word, but I think again, to reiterate that steady, like I'd be willing to bet we do this a year from now. Same thing. More things change, more they stay the same.
Yep.
And it's just kind of, again, that same comment of less extreme.
Yeah.
But still, so local in Monroe County, Rochester, Western New York, still seller's market in most spots. You get into rural areas, right? Different markets. But, when you talk Rochester, Buffalo, and the immediate surrounding area, still a seller's market, still stricken, from inventory to meet the demand out there, even though, again, demand is going to be
Yep.
the commons. Affordability is going to be the commons, but still creating similar market conditions.
And I think the one that you could bash the economy, the cost of living, and all of that, but like the one thing that we've been blessed with in this country for the longest run ever is the extreme low unemployment. Like people are gainfully employed, right? And going back 12 plus years ago, I was in a union, was doing construction, and for the last 5 years up until 2012, there was no work. And I still keep in touch with all, Rick was just in last week and I was like, hey, what's the work picture? He's like, we're fully employed. We're bringing out of towners in to keep up with the demand. And when locally, from a commercial standpoint, when these guys are busy, that means that people are investing in the community, in the infrastructure that are creating future jobs. That's huge.
Well, and I think locally here, we're very stable.
Oh my God, yeah.
And growing. So that just makes this, it makes it all better. But again, I guess where it's frustrating is on the demand side of it.
Yep.
But there can be plans. There can be goals that get reached. You just gotta, really get customized with it and find the right situation.
Yeah, and there's good news with anything bad, right? You just said the average first-time home buyer's age is 38. My God, I wish I would have stayed home with my parents till 38. I had it made. I waited till I was 27, which is pathetic enough at that time.
There you go with your parents. I'm moving.
Yeah, you've eaten there. You want to move in now.
Love it. All right. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year. Check us out, AnthonyButeraTeam.com. Hope all is well. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.